Confirming, Councillor Cameron, you can hear me okay? And Councillor Callaghan still from earlier before we get underway? Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Yes, thank you, Mayor King.
Thank you. Well, good evening and welcome to the public forum being held in the council chambers for this Monday, the 23rd of October. We'll start with the recording of the public forum. So a reminder that this public forum is being audio recorded for administrative purposes. By speaking at the public forum, you agree to being recorded. Please ensure that if and when you are speaking at this public forum that you are respectful to other people and use appropriate language. Albury City accepts no liability for any defamatory or offensive remarks or gestures made during the course of this public forum. Conflict of interest declarations received by the Chair and Mr CEO, none received. Which brings us to item 3, which are our speakers. So 3.1, Graham Boyer. This is in relation to item 13.1, DA 10.202.3.40286.1, dual occupancy development, 2 residences and garages, 17 Barling Walk, East Albury, does not support council's preferred recommendation. Graham, do feel free to step forward for your presentation to the council. So just mic should be on and just direct it wherever's comfortable for you. And
hello, working. Yep.
Lovely. Thank you. Welcome.
Thank you. So thanks for the invite. My main concerns are with the development is safety around the driveway with the dual occupancy of the dual development. My driveway is exactly, I'm in 18 Barling Walk, opposite one driveway. So I can see that that's going to be an issue, and why that approval can get through when all the other driveways are staggered. No driveways are opposite each other. So I can't comprehend how that development can get through. We have 6 grandchildren that visit our place on a regular basis, and there's a lot of children that unfortunately do play there. I know there's a playground down the road, but that street being like a walk, as it's called, a lot of kids in the street do play there, and then it's going to enhance the traffic movement. So my main concerns are the design may be the driveways can be situated differently. I have seen duplexes with the driveways in the middle rather than on the edge, which that puts one opposite me. So I don't know whether that can be looked at. That would be my preference if the development does go through. I hope this development doesn't go through. Barling Walk is a very quiet, nice place at the moment, and all the residents there are quite happy with the way that the buildings are built. So I think that's all I have to. Probably the other thing would be less parking. I measured the street. It's only 5 metres roughly wide, so it's a very narrow street. And the ones on the side are about 6 metres. So as you come up, you come into a very narrow street. So that does limit parking, which I understand. I read the comment from whoever at the council, for example, in the agenda that it does meet requirements. Yes, when you have visitors, it doesn't meet requirements because they're not going to be able to park in the driveway. So, so that's all I have to say. So I hope the development doesn't go through, but if it does, maybe we can design the driveways a bit differently. So I appreciate your time to hear me. It's much appreciated, and that's all I have to say.
Thank you for your presentation, Mr. Boyer. Councillors, any questions at all for our guest speaker in relation to this? Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you for your presentation. Our next item relates to 3.2. So our guest speaker, Daniel Humpage. It is in relation to DA to item 13.2, as mentioned, DA 10.2023.4. 0080.1, commercial development, addition of a laundromat and signage, request for reduction of infrastructure contributions, 1 Diamond Drive, Thurgoona, does not support council's preferred recommendations. Daniel, feel free to make your way.
Good evening, councillors and Lady Mayor. Thank you for the opportunity to talk about this proposed fee. I've just got the document that we got from the council in relation to this, and I'll just read the quote that states what the fees and charges are for. It's listed as A3, infrastructure contributions, section 7.12 and section 64. The following monetary contributions are required and payable to council in accordance with section 7.12 of the Environmental Planning and Assessment Act 1979 and section 64 of the Local Government Act 1993 to provide for the increased demand for public amenities and services resulting from the development. And those amenities would be additional water for the laundromat, washing machines, and obviously sewage to treat that water once it's been used. The reason that we're opposing, or trying to say that we don't think we should be paying this fee, is because we can categorically prove that these washing machines are so energy and water efficient that they'll actually reduce inflow to the amenity, so that Albury City Council won't have to produce as much clean water or treat as much dirty water if people use our washing machines rather than doing their washing at home. And bearing in mind that people don't wash their clothes at home and then come to the laundromat and wash them again. It's either one or the other. So if they wash them at home, you're going to have at least the same amount of water that you're getting now. If they use our washing machines, it's actually going to reduce the demand on the amenity. And that's why we're asking to have that fee waived. And it is to the tune of $5,000 per washing machine that we plan on putting into the laundromat at Thurgoona. So it's a significant amount of money. It also references, we have the laundromat in Mate Street. We had similar dealings with the council some 6 or 7 years ago in relation to a similar matter there. We were given a concession back then, and in this document, it's leaning on that as a reason why we should be paying now. The reason, there's a few things that are different. Back then, information that we wanted to present to the council was basically the council staff at the time said they weren't interested in looking at it. And either way, we're going to pay a fee, whether we like it or not. And if we're not happy and we're not prepared to pay the fee, we weren't going to get our DA. And that's the only reason that we agreed to paying that fee. Otherwise, we would have liked the opportunity to discuss it like I am today. Back then, I wasn't allowed to speak at the council meeting to bring up this matter either. So I thank you for the opportunity to be able to do it today. Based on the wording in the council's own document, you're wanting us to pay $55,000 for increased demand that's actually going to be decreased. So by that logic, the council could be paying us for reducing the inflow and the demand. Now we didn't offer that as an option. We just said, look, can you just not charge us that $55,000 because there's not going to be an increase. Simple as that. We're really proud of our establishment that we've set up in North Albury and the one that we've renovated in David Street, and we want to replicate the same sort of thing out at Thurgoona. We understand the council's got to raise money to build infrastructure, but to basically try and slug us for an increased demand that's not there, we find that hard to swallow. So yeah, we're hoping that you'll consider that the logic behind that. If we were going to increase the demand like we are with the car wash side of the development, that development contribution we haven't balked at. It's set in stone, and we're happy to pay it because we know we're going to increase demand with that part of the development. But the laundromat's a totally different cup of tea. So hopefully you'll see the logic in our reasoning and support our request to have those fees and charges waived.
Thank you, Mr. Humpage, for your presentation. We have one question online through Councillor Cameron. Councillor Cameron.
Thank you, Mayor King. You've said that in a previous application some time ago. How long ago was that?
That was around 6 years ago.
And you say you were told by council staff that if you didn't pay the fee, you wouldn't get your DA, and that's all there was to it, or words to that effect?
They said that you're going to pay whether you like it or not, and it's just a matter of how much. And we actually put in a proposal that we would pay a nominal fee of $300 per washing machine. And he said, well, we could charge you up to $6,000 if we like. And he said that $300 is not enough. And it was agreed that we were going to have to pay $2,000 per washing machine. And I think that site's got 14 washing machines. So we had to pay $28,000 back then, even though we didn't agree with it. We weren't allowed to put forward the information to support our argument, and we weren't allowed to face the council and articulate our point either. So we just did it because we didn't want our development to stall because we'd already taken possession of the building.
Do you have the name of the member of staff who made these comments to you, you say?
I do.
And would you like to tell me that name?
I can in private. I don't want to throw someone under the bus, but I'm happy to furnish you with that information.
Any questions in relation to you that's developed this application before us for any other councillors, or any further questions, Councillor Cameron?
No, thank you.
Councillor Bowen.
Thank you for your submission or presentation. Just want to understand, why would there be an increase in demand for car wash, but not an increase in demand for your washing machines when people can wash their car at home as well too? So if they wash them at your car wash, they're not washing them at home. So therefore you're saving more water that way. Why are you accepted of an increased demand in a car wash, but not with the machines if you might do your small stuff at home and bring the bigger stuff to the laundromat?
The car wash scenario is quite simple. It's actually illegal to wash your car at home on the driveway, right on the road out the front. And very few people want to wash their car on the grass or on their lawn if they've got some. People are moving more and more towards washing their car in car washes worldwide. It's a simple fact. You look at how many car washes have been popping up in town in the last 10, 15 years. People want the convenience of being able to sit in their car, have their car get washed without getting dirty, without getting soap all over themselves, without having to clean up mops and buckets and whatever. They get a superior wash. And all the water that's generated from that car wash goes through a triple interceptor pit. All the nasties in it get separated out. The water gets then sent to the sewage plant and gets treated. At home, that doesn't happen. People are becoming more environmentally conscious, and they're keen to wash their car where it's a good place to wash it rather than on their front lawn or in their driveway. The laundromat side of it is people are time poor now, far more than they've ever been, and our washing machines are so efficient and they can do a full cycle up to 28 kilos of washing in 24 minutes and use 60% less water than washing those clothes at home. We have a lot of customers now that their washing machine or dryer will break down. They come to our laundromat once and they go, I'm going home to get rid of my other machine and I'm just coming here from now on. And our growth figures, we've grown between 30 and 40% turnover every year on year since we built Mate Street. And the reason we want to build one out at Thurgoona is the demand. We're getting to the point where we haven't got enough space for everyone. So if we don't build one, someone else will build one.
So just want to understand then, that you accept that there's an extra charge for your car wash.
Yep.
But you don't accept it for the laundromat.
Absolutely, because the volume of water to wash a car at an automatic car wash or even with a handheld self-serve is probably going to be a lot more than it is if you wash your car in your driveway with a mop and bucket.
Thank you. Question, Councillor Thurley.
My question is to the General Manager. The presenter has made a number of assertions that he was prevented from or not allowed to present information to council. Was that correct? Because I was a councillor at the time and I don't recall that.
Mr. CEO.
Thanks for the question through you, Mayor King. Look, unlikely. We'll need to follow that up through the process that was in place at that time. But I can assure councillors that report and the proposal did come before council. Council was the one who made the decision around reduction in the developer contributions for that particular application. So the matter did come before council and the information was provided as I understand it at that time, but we can check that detail for the councillor group. Thank you.
Thank you, councillors. If there's no further questions, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
And that concludes our public forum. Good evening and welcome to our council meeting being held in the council chambers for this Monday, the 23rd of October. We'll begin with the opening affirmation and acknowledgement of country. We gather to represent the people of Albury who have entrusted us with this task. May our efforts be blessed with insight, wisdom, and common sense. May our personal values give us honesty and courage to serve our community effectively and with respect for all. We would like to acknowledge the Wiradjuri people as the traditional custodians of the land that we meet upon today and pay our respects to their elders past, present and future, for they hold the memories, culture, tradition and hopes of Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people that contribute to our community. Item 2, a reminder of recording and webcasting of the meeting. The council meeting is being webcast and recorded. By speaking at the council meeting, you agree to being recorded and webcast. Please ensure that if and when you are speaking at this council meeting, that you are respectful to other people and use appropriate language. Albury City accepts no liability for any defamatory or offensive remarks or gestures made during the course of this council meeting. An audio recording will be made for administrative purposes. Which brings us to item CM3, conflict of interest declarations received and disclosure of political donations. Mr. CEO.
Thank you, Mayor King. No conflicts of interest declarations received for this meeting. In respect to disclosure of political donations and the requirements of the Environmental Planning and Assessment Act, the Act under section 10.4 requires a person submitting a planning application or submission regarding a planning application to disclose any reportable political donation and or gifts to any local councillor or employee of the council. Reportable political donations include those of or above $1,000. The disclosure statement forms are available on Council's website or from the Customer Service Centre and must be lodged in accordance with the Act. In dealing with development applications, councillors need to take into account specific planning matters contained in the Act. Accordingly, the provisions of Section 4.151 of that Act are set out in the Council Officer's report detailing the planning issues to be considered. The Local Government Act 1993, Section 375 requires that a division be called whenever a motion for a planning decision is put at a meeting of the council. Planning decision means a decision made in the exercise of a function of council under the Act, including a decision relating to a development application, an environmental planning instrument, a development control plan or a development contribution plan under the Act, but not including the making of an order under Division 9.3 of Part 9 of that Act. Thank you, Mayor King.
Thank you. CM4, apologies. Councillor Bowen.
Thank you, Mayor King. To recommend a motion that the council receive, note and accept the apology of Councillor Betteridge and grant leave of absence for the meeting.
Thank you. Councillor Gluckin.
Happy to second. Thank you.
Thank you, councillors. We'll put the motion. Those for? Those against? That motion is carried. Thank you, councillors. CM 4.2, attendance by councillors at the meeting by audio visual link. Councillor Thurley.
Thank you, Mayor King. I move that council receive, note and accept the attendance of councillors Callaghan and Cameron via audio visual link for the meeting.
Thank you. Councillor Gluckin.
Happy to second. Thank you.
Thank you, councillors. We'll put the motion. Those for? Those against? That motion is carried. CM5, Merrill Minute. There is no Merrill Minute. CM6, action plans. Councillor Gluckin.
Thank you. Through you, Mayor King, to move the recommendation as a motion that the following action plans be received and noted. Actions complete for noting only, actions awaiting response from external parties, actions in progress, and long-term issues more than 3 months, noting that one of which has no item. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Thurley.
Second the motion, Mayor King.
Thank you. Councillor Gluckin, did you wish to speak to the motion at all? Councillors, any speakers for or questions? In that case, we'll put the motion. Those for? Those against? That motion is carried. Thanks, councillors. CM7, confirmation of minutes of previous meetings. CM 7.1, minutes of the council meeting held on the 9th of October 2023 at 6 p.m. Councillor Bowen.
Thank you, Mayor King. I'd like to move the recommendation that the minutes of the council meeting held on 9th of October 2023 at 6 p.m. be confirmed.
Thank you. Councillor Thurley.
Second the motion, Mayor King.
Thank you. Councillors, any questions or comments? If not, happy to put the motion. Those for? Those against? That motion is carried. CM8, reports from community forums. There are no reports from community forums. CM9, notices of motion, notices of rescission. There are none. CM10, presentations and deputations. We have none. CM11, reports or minutes of committees and working parties. We have none of those tonight. CM12, documents for sealing. Councillor Gluckin.
Thank you. Through you, to move the recommendation as a motion that council authorises its seal to be affixed to the documents outlined below in the presence of 2 signatories authorised to affix the seal pursuant of Regulation 400 of Local Government General Regulation 2021 and the council seal and management of legal documents and advice procedure. A, Albury City Council lease to Commonwealth of Australia Department of Defence at Albury Airport Lot 27 DP 10444297, lease term 5 years commencing 1 January 2023, file number 11/000292. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Thurley.
Mayor King.
Thank you. Happy to put the motion, Councillor Gluckin. Those for? Those against? That motion is carried. CM13, officers' reports for consideration. CM 13.1, development application 10.2023 20486.1, dual occupancy development, 2 residences and garages, 17 Barling Walk in East Albury. Councillor Thurley.
Thank you, Mayor King. I move that Council A receive the contents of this report and B grants development consent to development application 10.2023.402.861.1 for an attached dual occupancy development to residences and garages at 17 Barling Walk, East Albury, subject to the conditions contained in the draft determination included at attachment 7 to this report.
Thank you. Councillor Glacken.
Happy to second that, Mayor King. Thank you.
Thank you. First off, Councillor Thurley, did you wish to open debate?
Very briefly, Mayor King, thank you. And I do appreciate the presentation we had tonight. However, I am satisfied that the conditions on this development are satisfactory, that the street is not overly busy in terms of lots of through traffic. And while it's a narrow road, speeds are low in that area. And if there are any other problems with traffic, we can always put traffic calming devices. The other the plus about this development is we are increasingly finding the need for infill housing development and more higher density development rather than simply a 3-bedroom house on one big block. And this one meets those criteria. It's of a high quality architecturally, and I don't see it as a significant problem in the neighbourhood.
Thank you, Councillor Thurley. Question, Councillor Bowen.
Thank you, Mayor King. Through to the relevant member of staff. Thank you to Mr. Vaya for the presentation. You noted that the driveway positioning of one of the units. Just want to understand, if I could, that if there was a driveway opposite another driveway, would that mean that there would be a clearer run and no one would be parking outside that? So would that make that more safer, or would that make that more challenging?
Mr. Christie.
Thank you for the question, and for you, Mayor King. There are advantages to both. Obviously, if there is a driveway opposite, no one can park in front of that driveway. So you would then argue that the whole of the roadway would be cleared. Where if it was opposite, say, a normal curb, then there's opportunity for someone to obviously park in that normal parking space, and that might prevent a different obstruction or opportunity.
Thank you. Question, Councillor Glacken.
Thank you. Through you, Mayor King, to the most relevant member of staff. The speaker, and thank you for the presentation, raised an issue with reference to Barling Walk and it being made mention of children playing in proximity of that walk. Can the most relevant member of staff please confirm whether that is a roadway? Barling Walk is actually a road, what the speed limit is, are there any special requirements because it is called walk, or is it just treated as a normal residential street? Thank you.
Mr. Christie.
Thank you for the question, and for you, Mayor King. So yes, it is a public roadway, Barling Walk. It is a lower designed environment, and you normally get that with things such as walks, ways. There's different ways that they'll get nomenclature. Walk doesn't make it any different, but the design as such is a lower speed. There's also some parts there where it actually narrows down even between the road pavements, and you get different colour formats between the sections of tarmac road, and they're all design elements that encourage people to drive at lower speeds.
Can I have a follow-up, please? So can the most relevant member of staff please confirm what the actual speed limit is on that street and what it would be on, for example, the street behind Grandview Terrace or Samuel Place going off Barling Walk? Thank you.
Yep. Back to you, Mr. Christie, on that one, if you've got the relevant info.
Thank you for the question, and for you, Mayor King. I was just double checking on our Weave system that it is 50 kilometres, which is the normal speed limit for a local residential street.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Councillor Baker.
Thank you, Mayor King. I had a parking question too, a driveway question, and through you to Mr. Christie, would it be possible to offset it a little bit? Because where I live, council approved a thing directly opposite, and it does have its issues when you're exactly lined up. And I take Mr. Boyer's point that it can be difficult. So just wondering if there's any way that could be improved a little bit by not just having it slightly offset.
Mr. Christie?
Yep. Thank you for the question again for you, Mayor King. Generally, because driveways are extremely low speed environments. So when it comes to roadways, etc., there'll be offset distances of those because people will be driving higher speeds. Obviously, with a driveway, generally, especially if they're exiting the driveway, they're coming from a stationary speed. So there's not normally any safety requirement to be able to have those therefore offset and not directly opposite each other. In regards to whether there is the ability, the application is before council at the moment, and council could consider whether they wish to place a condition. The thing to consider would be whether it redesigned the application and what the impacts were. At this stage, with those driveways both being more centralised, it would have some design element to have any degree of separation.
Thank you. Councillors, any speakers for or against? Councillor Thurley, did you wish to sum up debate? In that case, councillors, will put the motion as it stands. Those for? It's in division. Councillor Cameron, Councillor Callaghan, Councillors Thurley, Edwards, Bowen, King, Glacken and Baker. That motion is carried. Thank you, councillors. Item CM 13.2, Development Application 10.2023.40080.1, Commercial Development, Addition of a Laundromat and Signage, Request for Reduction of Infrastructure Contributions, 1 Diamond Drive, Thurgoona. Councillor Glacken.
Thank you. I would, through you, like to move the recommendation as a motion that Council A, receive and note the report regarding Section 64 contributions for the proposed laundromat at 1 Diamond Drive, Thurgoona, and B, levy a reduced developer charge of $3,040.26 per machine, where the development includes a low energy, high efficiency washing machine that result in a reduced loading on council's infrastructure and provide an overall net environmental gain for the community. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Thurley.
Second the motion, Mayor King.
Thank you. Councillor Glacken, did you wish to speak to the motion?
Yes, I acknowledge the presentation provided by the developer proponent this evening and thank them for their the points that they have raised with reference to their proposed development. And I think it did raise some interesting aspects, some of which were in the report itself. I believe that the staff have considered, and I support their considerations for a reduced developer charge. The reality is that we as a community need to be able to raise funds to ensure that we have infrastructure, facilities and services within our community for the greater good of our community, including water and sewer. And all of us, or most of us, nearly everyone, uses those facilities and services to varying degrees. Some people use more water than others, and some people use the library but not others, and some people use the pool and not others. Some people don't drive a car, but they ride a bike. And we have to continue to develop the infrastructure that we have as a community and use as a community. And we need to ensure that we also maintain those facilities and services. And there's an enormous number of facilities and services. These charges are specifically related to a development and the specific use of water and sewer infrastructure for this development. And that's what these charges are related to. I agree with the suggested reduction because the proponent is procuring infrastructure that will use less water. They are also securing infrastructure that will provide them with efficiencies on an ongoing basis as well. So it's a win for them to get those machines. I understand they see it as a win for our community that they get those better machines, and I acknowledge that, but it is also an advantage for them to do so. And so I support the reduced development charge, but noting that we do need we do require everybody to pay development fees and charges, because we need to ensure that our community can continue to have the services, the facilities and the infrastructure, including water and sewer, that we all need. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Glacken. Any other speakers for or against? Happy to put the motion, Councillor Glacken. Another one in division. Councillors will put the motion. Those for, Councillors Callaghan, Cameron, Thurley, Edwards, Bowen, King, Glacken and Baker. That motion is carried. There are none against. Thank you, councillors. Item 13.3 is East Albury Precinct Plan Contract number 23/01158. Councillor Bowen.
Thank you, Mayor King. I'd like to move the recommendation that council accepts the tender from McGregor Coxall Proprietary Limited for contract number 23/01158 East Albury Precinct Plan for the lump sum amount of $303,578, including GST.
Thank you, Councillor Thurley.
Second the motion, Mayor King.
Thank you. Did you wish to speak to the motion at all?
Just briefly. If I may, just briefly, it was great to see that there were 7 high-quality submissions for this contract and to prepare the framework for responding to the housing and business growth that's likely to happen in that Albury hospital upgrade area as well too. Also great to see that it is 26,000 under budget as well too. So very happy with this recommendation.
Thank you, Councillor Bowen. Any speakers for or against? In that case, are you happy to put the motion? We'll put the motion. Councillors, those for, those against, that motion is carried. Thank you. CM 13.4 Southern View Drive Stormwater Drainage Modification Project, contract number 22/00853. Councillor Glacken.
Thank you. Through you to move the recommendation as a motion, Mayor King, that council accepts the tender from XL Grey Brunei Proprietary Limited for contract number 22/00853 for Southern View Drive stormwater drainage modifications for the lump sum value of $262,185, which is inclusive of GST. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Thurley.
Second the motion, Mayor King.
Thank you. Did you wish to speak to the motion at all, Councillor Glacken?
Yes, very briefly. Here is one of the examples of needing to bring infrastructure up to standard to meet the requirements of our community. And it is with reference to stormwater drainage. It's good to see that we're able to resolve some issues that we've had. Our community has been experiencing over the last few years with the significant rain events. So good to see that we're able to bring this forward and to resolve those issues. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Glacken. Any other speakers for or against? Happy in that case to put the motion. Those for, those against, that motion is carried. Thank you, councillors. Item CM 13.5, Draft Albury City Environmental Sustainability Framework and Action Plan. Councillor Edwards.
Thank you, Mayor King. I move that Council A, receive and endorse the Draft Environment Sustainability Framework and Action Plan. B, place the Environment Sustainability Framework and Action Plan on public exhibition for a minimum of 28 days. And C, if no submissions are received, that the Draft Environment Sustainability Framework and Action Plan be adopted.
Thank you. Councillor Thurley.
Second the motion, Mayor King.
Councillor Edwards, do you wish to speak to the motion?
Briefly, this is a really important document that will help council keep climate change, sustainability and the environment front of mind and on the agenda. And I'm really pleased to see this framework and action plan come to fruition, particularly as it formed part of our climate emergency declaration. And I look forward to hearing what the community has to say.
Thank you, Councillor Edwards. Any other speakers for or against? In that case, happy to put the motion. Councillors, we'll put the motion. Those for, those against, that motion is carried. Thank you. CM 13.6 is the annual review of council committees and working parties. Councillor Thurley.
Thank you, Mayor King. I move that council endorses the updated 2023-24 Albury City Committees and Working Parties Register.
Thank you. Councillor Glacken.
Happy to second that. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Thurley, did you wish to speak to it at all?
Councillors had a workshop the other week and we went through all of these and came to an amicable agreement. So I'm happy with it.
Thank you. In that case, if there are no other speakers, happy to put that motion. Those for, those against, that motion is carried. Yes, we will move on now to an additional, in relation to, pardon me. Apologies. Yes, so we actually have an additional item, that a motion that we're putting forward. We're just waiting for it to come up on the screen, and it relates to an additional motion in relation to representative of one of our councillors. So we'll just wait till that comes up, and then we'll discuss that one. So I'll be with you in a minute. Just having a technical issue there, so we'll come back to this item in general business and continue on with the meeting. So we'll just wait till Councillor Glacken is back in position. Not your fault, technology over in the back there. So we will come back to that item and refer to that additional late item to the agenda. So this brings us now to item CM 13.7. It relates to the ARIC chair nomination. Councillor Thurley.
Thank you, Mayor King. I move that council extend the existing chair's term to 1st of January 2027.
Thank you. Councillor Bowen.
Thank you. Second that motion.
Thank you. Councillor Thurley, did you wish to speak to it at all?
Very briefly, under the past rules, his term would have expired in 2024, but there have been changes made, and it's in, I think, the interests of continuity and good governance that we extend Stephen Coates' position as chair of the ARIC to the 1st of January 2027.
Thank you. Any other speakers for or against in relation to that? In that case, happy to put the motion. Those for, those against, that motion is carried. Thank you, councillors. Our next item is item CM 13.8, the Lauren Jackson Sports Centre Stage 2 feasibility study. Councillor Glacken.
Thank you. A long motion through you, Mayor King, to move the recommendation as a motion, and I will be moving the recommendation as we have in the report that has come to us tonight. That has been available to us over the weekend. That council will receive and note the Lauren Jackson Sports, what is it? Lauren Jackson Sports Complex? Centre, thank you, Centre, the other C word. Stage 2 feasibility and business case prepared by At Leisure Planners. B, share the report with the stakeholder organisations. C, continue discussions with PCYC regarding the involvement, potential contribution and expectations. D, use the preferred concept plan option 4 for the Lauren Jackson Sports Centre Stage 2 as the basis for a master plan for future development of the Lauren Jackson Sports Centre precinct, and seek community and stakeholder input. E, incorporate funding of $1.5 million for preliminary design and costing of option 4 at the Lauren Jackson Sports Centre. stage 2 in developing the draft 2024 to 2028 4-year delivery plan to validate, that's all right, costs and support advocacy efforts. F, activate planning for option 4 at Lauren Jackson Sports Centre, stage 2 advocacy strategy development and funding attraction. G, proceed with the replacement of Lavington Swim Centre as per the adopted 4-year delivery plan on a like-for-like basis to current and best practice standards, with the expectation of diving infrastructure. Sorry. And H, the future replacement of the Albury Swim Centre be considered with the aquatic strategy is reviewed post completion of the Thurgoona Wallinga structure plan and social infrastructure strategy. Thank you. And if I can find a seconder, I'll speak very briefly to that.
Thank you. You have Councillor Edwards.
Happy to second the motion, Mayor King, but I was wondering if I could make an amendment to G and if the mover would accept that, or.
Very happy to hear your suggested modification to item G, which I stumbled over. Yes, as I read it. Thank you.
So we have a mover and a seconder. So yeah, Councillor Edwards, shall we hear your proposed amendment?
Yes, it's much the same. Just wait.
Yeah, just wait for it
a moment
to appear.
Yep. Okay. Also, the amendment is to proceed with the replacement of Lavington Swim Centre, excluding diving infrastructure, to current and best practice standards as per the adopted 4-year delivery plan, with consideration for water play and learn to swim opportunities to complement but not compete with the proposed regional aquatic facility at Lauren Jackson Sports Centre.
Councillor Golakan, are you happy to accept?
Very happy to accept that, and thank Councillor Edwards for her suggested amendment to the staff recommendation. And
would you like to speak to the motion?
Thank you. I wanted to move the original recommendation from the staff, and was looking for a seconder to support me in that, so that I could then say I wanted to open the opportunity for councillors to discuss and debate the motion from staff to ensure that we had a full debate about this topic. It's a topic that's been on the agenda ever since I was first elected as a councillor, and I'm the longest standing existing existing councillor consecutively on council. Councillor Baker was on council when we first started looking at an aquatics facility. Councillor Thurley has been there for many of the years that I have been there, but we have been discussing this for a couple of decades now. And it's gone through many and varied iterations and versions. And so that's why I think it's very important for councillors to tonight, this council, to provide their reasons as to why or why not they would be supporting this, what has and what hasn't happened in recent and long-term history, and why the changes and the iterations have actually happened. So that's why I was very happy to move the staff recommendation. I am supporting this because I think it provides us with a bigger picture, longer term, realistic view of aquatics within for our city. It enables us to look at Thurgoona Wallinga in the medium term because that's our growth area. It allows us to look at continuing the provision of water in whatever form at the existing Lavington Centre, and that is something that needs to be developed more fully. But it enables us to grow and develop the facilities that we have, as well as provide new infrastructure, least of which is the ability to have all year water for aquatics purposes. In addition to that, it's an opportunity for us to provide therapeutic water. And that is one of the main reasons we need to ensure that we have all year round warm water in our city. That is a growth area for the requirement of an aquatics facility that is able to be utilised all year round and has warm water. That is one of the key areas that we must ensure happens in my view. That is one of the key areas we need to have happen. We also need, alongside of that, to ensure that the Lauren Jackson Sports Centre continues to grow and develop and meet the needs. It needs to be modernised. In some people's minds, it may not appear to be very old, but the infrastructure is ageing. We need to replace the floor. We need to provide more and greater facilities in that area. So I think the motion that the staff put forward, or the recommendation that the staff put forward, was really very good. And it's just a matter of tweaking with reference to the Lavington Swim Centre, which I think reflects much of what has been said within our community. So thank you very much, Mayor King. I look forward to hearing the other discussion from the other councillors. Thank you.
Thank you. We do have some speakers but maybe first off a question, Councillor Bowen.
Thank you, Mayor King. Through you to the most relevant member of staff, just like to ask about motion F on that activate planning for option 4, which I'm happy for. What I'd like to know is with the basketball stadium, initially it was initially stage 2 to add on courts to the basketball stadium, and then we've attached the aquatics on, which I'm all for, and think it would be great to have that indoor facility. I just want to understand too, though, that does this involve some staging so that if aquatics in the long term, and as we know, it's fairly costly, and that's okay. But if we don't get the funding for that, that there's still the ability to stage this process so that at least the basketball courts are on the priority list for the extra 3 courts. And so that way that can still go ahead, even if it takes a little longer for aquatics to come through.
Mr. Glass.
Thank you, Councillor Bowen, and through you, Mayor King. Yes, absolutely. It is recognised in the report on page 334 that in order to progress the urgent need for basketball courts, that it recommends that we would consider staging the basketball courts first and then aquatics after that.
So just a quick follow-up, if I can be clear. So therefore, even if the funding doesn't come through for the aquatic centre, but enough funding comes through, the courts will be done.
Mr. Glass, sorry.
Thank you, thank you for the question, and through you, Mayor King, that is the intention. Obviously, it's all subject to funding, but absolutely, that would be the intention.
Thank you. And once again, I'd just like to state that very for the aquatic centre as well. Just don't want to hijack the basketball aspect of it when stage 2. Thanks.
You speaker against, Councillor Cameron.
Thank you, Mayor King. I'd actually like to move a amendment, if I may. I have foreshadowed this amendment with staff, so they may be able to put it up, I'm not sure. But my amendment is as follows. That council receive and note the LJSC Stage 2 feasibility and business case prepared by At Leisure planners. B, share the report with stakeholder organisations. C, continue discussions with PCYC regarding their involvement, brackets, potential contribution and expectations, close brackets. D, use the preferred concept plan option 4 for the LJSC Stage 2 as the basis for master plan for future development of the LJSC precinct, and seek community and stakeholder input. E, incorporate funding of 1.5 million for preliminary design and costing of option 4 at LJSC2 in developing the draft 2024-2028 4-year delivery plans to validate costs and support advocacy efforts, excluding the aquatics component planning. F, proceed with the replacement of Lavington Swim Centre as per the adopted 4-year delivery plan on a like-for-like basis to current and best practice standards, with the exception of the diving infrastructure. And if this becomes is successful and becomes the motion, I'd be happy to reflect the amendment proposed by Councillor Edwards in the final motion. G, the future replacement of the Albury Swim Centre to be considered when the aquatic strategy is reviewed post completion of the Goona Willinga structure plan and the social infrastructure strategy. Mayor King, if I can get a seconder, I will speak to that.
You seconder for. Oh, yep. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor King. I'm happy to second this amendment to hear what Councillor Cameron's got to say.
Thank you, Councillor Cameron.
Thank you, and thank you, Councillor Baker, for his sportsmanship. We're at a crossroads, or we're at the beginning of a crossroads, I might say, more accurately, with this, but let's take it back to the fundamentals. Around 2007 to 2011, the aquatics community in Albury were promised a FINA standard indoor aquatic centre, and that was the concept, and that has been the concept. In 2012, that was costed at $36 to $40 million at that time. During the next few terms or 2 terms of council, that idea was abandoned as being too expensive by the council. During this term of council, there seems to have been decisions or concepts with it coming back into vogue. That's problematic for me for 2 reasons. One is that the construction costs of such a facility would now be in excess of $120 million, which, unless I'm mistaken, is more than the total yearly budget of Albury City Council with all sources of finance. Yes, we can say that, well, there's no harm in going ahead with this because, or the planning for this, or the concept for this, because we obviously, and I've actually heard it well articulated, the case by Councillor Baker in the past, because if we didn't get state and federal funding, then of course we wouldn't go on with it. So we'd only go ahead if we got the appropriate state and federal funding. Well, that was the mooted process for the Lavington Sports Centre redevelopment, as I recall. And in the initial phases there and well into the project, and when we had to commit to funding the project, the state government funded no component of it initially. And we were caught, and it was initially funded by the people of Albury and the federal government. Now, there were some other grants and funding along the journey there, and that was pleasing, but the reality remains there are simply no guarantees that we'll get tripartite funding, nor is there any guarantee, and nor has there ever been any discussion that I'm aware of making what is a regional aquatics facility being supported by the region, by Wodonga, by Hume-Shire, by Corora-Shire, by the surrounding communities. This will be the burden of the Albury ratepayers if it goes ahead. And it's not fair to the aquatics community either for certain councillors to simply try and wind the clock back to 2007, 2011 and pretend that the last 2 terms of council didn't happen and just go back to the future and say, don't worry, we always told you we'd get this when things return to normal, and here we are. This is a $130 million project, but it has recurrent running costs that will be in the millions. The price of electricity alone, the price of power, the price of water, the cost of labour are incredible. This will bankrupt our city, and it will leave a legacy of debt to our city forever. And we need to be honest with the aquatics community and stop giving them the impression that we're going to wind the clock back and give them their dream outcome of a world standard FINA class indoor aquatic centre. By all means, let's go back to the drawing board and discuss possibilities and other options for more aquatic facilities while maintaining Lavington, at least in Albury. But let's abandon this idea and make it clear and be honest that we are abandoning this dream of a FINA standard indoor centre at a mammoth cost, which this city cannot afford. Thank you.
Councillor Cameron speaking against Councillor Baker.
Thank you, Mayor King. Yeah, thanks for your comments, Councillor Cameron. It is not a FINA standard regional aquatic facility. This is a sense of deja vu for me, because 7 years ago I was in the gallery when the proposed regional aquatic facility at Lauren Jackson was supported by the consultant of the day and also council officers, and it was thrown out by a Merrill Minute, and the new motion said that Albury City would explore cross-border opportunities with Wodonga. And since then, the last 7 years, there's been no spending on aquatics at all. We did get aligned leisure for 5 years and with an extension of 1 year. And our long-suffering aquatic users have nowhere to swim in winter. And that's what the main thrust of a regional aquatic facility is. It's all year-round swimming. It's therapeutic water. It will only ever get up if there's enough grants, buy-in from state, federal money, private allied health partnerships. And we owe it to our community to provide them with some leadership and a vision to get something that most communities our size have already and have been getting the benefit of for the last 20 years. And, you know, happy that I seconded this amendment just for the sake of talking about it, but it's a flat no from me, and I don't think Councillor Cameron will get any support from around the table. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Baker. Councillor Edwards. Oh, no. From before. Sorry. Any other speakers for or against in relation to this proposed amendment?
I'd like to speak in reply, if I may.
Yeah, absolutely. Close debate on this one. Thanks, Councillor Cameron.
This is a debate that's been had many times, but it's become current again for the reasons I've outlined. I need to make two very important points. Consultants don't make decisions about how we spend the ratepayers' money, regardless of what reports or how glowing their reports or attractive their reports may seem. They're always the best case scenario. Likewise, senior staff and reports from staff don't determine how we spend this city's money, the ratepayers' money. The ratepayers elect 9 people to represent them, and they are the only people who make these decisions, and this is the only forum in which those decisions should be made. Briefing sessions and other informal meetings of council are not the venue to reach agreement and are not the venue to determine these matters. And if I see one scintilla of that having happened, then I will have no hesitation in taking this further. In any case, the best case scenario that we are looking at here in practical terms is a cost of $40 million to the ratepayers of Albury and a recurrent cost of upwards of $1.5 to $2 million a year minimum. That's not within the capacity of this community to sustain. And it won't be too long if this project goes ahead where the staff will come to the councillors of the day and they will say we must have special rate variations or the city will go broke. Think carefully about the road you're about to start to travel on, my fellow councillors, because I fear it's the wrong road indeed.
Thank you, Councillor Cameron. We'll take a vote on this amendment. Those for? Those against? We'll now return to, the amendment is lost. So we now return to the original motion and encourage speakers for or against. Councillor Edwards.
Thank you, Mayor King. I just wanted to speak largely to my amendment at G, and to say that water is so important, as Councillor Glacken spoke about earlier, but for everyone in our city. And this is why it's crucial that the replacement of Lavington Pool proceeds so that people who face challenges getting to Albury Pool have water both now and into the future, and certainly while a regional aquatic facility at Lauren Jackson is being developed. I was really pleased to see that the report acknowledged the socio-economic and transport challenges faced by the community in our northern suburbs and the need for our cold community to have access to safe water. However, I do think we need flexibility in the final design. I don't think we need Lavington to be replaced like for like as per the original recommendation. Yes, we need the big pool, but the 2 smaller pools at Lavington could be consolidated into an integrated toddler pool and splash park, similar to what Waves and Wodonga has. To be clear, the replacement of Lavington Pool does not compete with the future development of an indoor aquatics facility, which I support, but could be some years away. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Edwards. Speaker for, Councillor Baker.
Thank you, Mayor King. I'd just like to reiterate my support for the entire motion. Also acknowledge the work done by leisure planners in looking about 150, 180 pages of talking about this whole topic, why you actually build regional aquatic facilities, what the benefit is. There's going to be 717,000 visits at this facility, which we're not going to be getting if we just do nothing. And that is amazing for the benefits, both mental and physical, for our community. It is cold here. It's cold in winter. We've just agreed to spend 330,000 per year to keep Albury Swim Centre open because we haven't got anywhere else to swim in winter. And once Lauren Jackson is completed, we won't be spending that anymore, and we will save that straight away. People would rather swim indoor during winter if they can. I would also just like to go to page 30 of the Leisure Planners report and commend Councillor Edwards for moving G. Just that, and this was before G was moved, that Council has resolved that this facility should be replaced like for like. The planners quote, "These types of facilities are not likely to be what the market needs into the future, and with the Goona, it is not in a good location to service future population projections. However, it is close to the Lauren Jackson Sports Centre, and if a regional aquatic facility were to be built there, it would impact on the feasibility of both this proposed centre and a pool in Thurgoona." On page 32, to add to that, the Lavington pool and associated facilities is not fit for purpose and is in a poor location. If Lavington is replaced like for like, it would compete with any new aquatic facility built at Lauren Jackson Sports Centre. An option for Lavington may be to construct a water play facility to relieve heat stress. The consultant's advice for a like-for-like facility at Lavington is an unequivocal, not a good idea. So I applaud G going into that. It does say complement and not compete with the Lauren Jackson proposal. And I support this, and I really support it for our community, which needs this sorely. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Baker. No cheering in the gallery, thanks. Councillor Edwards.
I just had a question through you, Mayor King, to the relevant member of staff. Can staff confirm that the preliminary design and planning for Lavington and Lauren Jackson will include all-electric heat pumps, not dissimilar to Brimbank in Melbourne, and also the new facility at Northcote? Mr. Glass?
Thank you for the question, Councillor Edwards, and through you, Mayor King. Once we commence detailed design, it will definitely be a consideration that we look into heat pumps for both facilities.
Thank you. Speaker against, Councillor Cameron.
Thanks, Mayor King. I'll be brief, as I've said most of what I feel need to be said already. One thing I think councillors should reflect on is this isn't just starting the process or opening the door to a $120 million plus project at Lauren Jackson. This is also signing effectively the death warrant in the long term of the Lavington and Albury pools. There is no way a community of this size, without assistance from Wodonga, without assistance from our surrounding councils, could maintain that level of facility and also maintain the Albury and Lavington pools. It's just not going to happen. And anybody who's been around this debate for any period of time would know that. And you're already seeing signs tonight of a desire to downgrade Lavington from what it is and abandon the like-for-like replacement. And that will only increase as time goes on and as we move closer to this folly. This will be the end in the long term of Lavington. It'll be the end in the long term, if not the medium term, of Albury. And people who think that they can have it all just are not stopping to consider the fiscal impact on this city's finances that this project and its recurrent costs will cause. It is beyond our means. And if we are to do an indoor aquatic centre, which I'm not categorically opposed to, particularly given the growth, I also question the consultant's report that Thurgoona is not an appropriate place for an aquatics facility. I mean, Thurgoona is the only growth area. Thurgoona-Willinga is the only growth area in this city. I fail to see how in the future that statement can be true. In any case, the councillors will make their decision and appear to have made their decision. But as this process goes on, the reality of the fiscal cost of it will loom large, and it will loom large in the working families of Lavington, North Albury and other parts of the city whose rates will surely have to increase to pay for this. Thank you.
Question in relation to G. I'm just clarifying. The one on screen, I don't believe, is the current one. So we're just adjusting that because I think my reading of it was a little different. Yeah, so G, as I read, proceed with the replacement of Lavington Swim Centre, excluding diving infrastructure to current best practice standards with consideration for water play and learn to swim opportunities. I'll just, for the most relevant member of staff, would that rule out, say, a 50-metre pool? When it says consideration, how do you interpret that? Because I think Councillor Cameron makes a very valid point that while in my reading, this master plan is quite aspirational, clearly, and there's no guarantees that we'll have funding partners, funding opportunities to realise the entire vision. I think there is a real risk in having our community think that is a realistic possibility. In the meantime, my personal view is I don't want to see the standard of Lavington Swim Centre not offer what our community might need over time as well. So could you explain the reading of G and what that in practice might mean?
Yeah, thank you for
Mr.
the question. Thank you for the question, Mayor King, and through you. So replacement of Lavington Swim Centre. Lavington Swim Centre currently consists of a 50-metre pool, as you've highlighted, a diving facility pool, for want of a better word, a shallow learn to swim pool and a toddler pool. This item G up here would include us to consider a splash park facility, as was mentioned by Councillor Edwards during her commentary earlier, as well as perhaps modernising and bringing up the current and best practice standards, all of the facilities there, excluding the diving facility.
So just to clarify, it doesn't necessarily rule out the style of, say, a 50-metre pool. Just wanted to make that clear.
Thank you. That's correct.
Speaker 4, Councillor Bowen.
Thank you, Mayor King. I speak for this motion, but I also like to add that I would like to see that the Lavington Swim Centre still continue on. It's budgeted for already for the upgrade of the Lavington Swim Centre, and although and as much as I would love to have an indoor aquatic centre tomorrow, would be fantastic, I see this a long way off into the future. So if it does take 5, 10, 15 years for this, we need to make sure that we have water in Albury and in North Albury, Lavington, to ensure that we can have a social benefit to the city.
Thank you. I've just got another question. Mr. Glass, in terms of the report highlighted some possible funding opportunities or how that has happened in other councils, do you have a view in terms of, I know it's crystal balls are difficult, but obviously our ratepayers can't wear the full costs of what's possibly projected. Are there realistic opportunities do you see? Can you highlight some of those for us?
Yeah, thank you for the question. And through you, Mayor King, obviously the advocacy strategy needs to be determined, and that would involve, the likes of key stakeholders, and clearly one of the key stakeholders is the Police Citizens Youth Club, who some of the land, the design encroaches upon. Yes, and the report does highlight some of the other funding partners, obviously mentioned already, the federal government and state government, but then also those involved in allied health and other potential managers of the facility as well. I'm aware that that yes, it's a big number, but there are other facilities that are being proposed at the moment that are of a similar sort of scale, including Cardinia with a C down in Packham is $150 million.
Thank you for outlining some of that. Councillor Bowen.
Thank you. Through to you, Mayor King, through you to the relevant member of staff. Just to follow on from your question, is the possibility for corporate funding or corporate sponsorship an option from a funding point of view as well too?
Mr. Glass, just double check the microphone's on for you. Stand by, we'll just clarify. Oh, yes, that's working.
Thank you for the question, Councillor Bowen, and through you, Mayor King. We haven't developed an advocacy strategy, but certainly that could be a consideration.
Any other questions for or against? Councillor Glacken, did you wish to close debate?
I'd be delighted to, and thank you. Thank you, councillors, for all the input from everyone tonight. That's great. This is a big report. It has so much behind it, and that's not just the report and its attachments. It's years behind it as well. And I see this as an exciting opportunity because it allows us to expand a number of sports, a number of infrastructure opportunities that we have here. So it's the expansion of the Lauren Jackson Sports Centre with the inclusion of an opportunity to collaborate more with PCYC. They may become a building, therefore funding partner. That is something that needs to be established, but that's a potential opportunity. We also have an opportunity to have an all year round sports aquatics facility, which is also a healthy living, learn to swim all year round. How fantastic would it be to have our children being able to learn to swim all year round? It would, if we can achieve it, provide therapeutic water, lap swimming, exercise water, play water, all sorts of things. So it will be an enormous advantage for us as a regional centre. And it won't just be us, the people of Albury, it's Albury-Wodonga, it's the larger regional centre, or the people from our larger regional centre and area who will utilise this facility all year round. I'm conscious of the fact that Councillor Cameron has raised the issue of the increased costs from the previous models to this. Yes, that is absolutely correct. But the previous models didn't have that interaction with PCYC as a potential collaborator. That was not taken into the scope of that build. It didn't have all of those additional facilities. It didn't have the flat floor space that would be other than court facilities. It didn't allow us to go up as the potential for this development does. And remembering that a lot of this, the recommendation that we're looking at tonight is about sharing this report with the community and the stakeholder groups. That's really significant. It also says that we're going to continue to work towards this delivery. We're putting, if we agree with this tonight, we're putting $1.5 million aside for ongoing planning for the stage 2 development. We're also going to continue to work with the redevelopment of the Lavington Swim Centre. What that actual redevelopment will be is not yet known, and it doesn't need to be known tonight because we need to continue to work with the Lauren Jackson Sports Centre redevelopment and expansion, as well as developing with the Lavington Swim Centre in tandem. And one may mean an outcome in one may result in a change delivery of another. But we need to make sure that both of them are fluid, no pun intended, both of them are fluid and can meet the changing needs as things are developed. I think it's a great opportunity and I encourage all of the councillors here tonight to support this recommendation. from our staff with our slight tweaking. Thank you.
Thank you, councillor Glacken. In that case, we'll put the motion, councillors. Those for? Those against? Councillor Cameron, that motion is carried. Thank you.
Mayor King, I'd like my vote to be recorded, please.
I think noting, was that councillor Cameron, you wanted noted that you were opposed to the motion?
I'd like my vote recorded, please. Thank you.
Correct. It shall be noted. Thank you very much. Which brings us to item CM 13.9, implementing the Public Interest Disclosure Act. Councillor Thurley.
Thank you, Mayor King. I move that Council A adopt the draft PID policy attachment 1, which will be uploaded to the Public Policy and Procedure Register, and B, rescind the existing reporting of serious wrongdoing public interest disclosure policy and procedure, and recommend its removal from the Public Policy and Procedure Register.
Thank you. Councillor Glacken.
Happy to second that. Thank you.
Thank you. Did you wish to speak to it all?
Briefly, I mean, the document's very comprehensive, and in the current environment with federal and state allegations of various misdoings and wrongdoings, and in some councils, I think this ability to have a strong disclosure policy is very important.
Thank you, councillor Thurley. Any other speakers for or against? In that case, happy to put the motion. Councillor Thurley, those for? Those against? That motion is carried. Thank you. CM 13.10, investment policy and procedure review. Councillor Thurley.
Thank you, Mayor King. I move that Council A endorses the draft revised investment policy and procedure as presented to Council, including that the amount of Albury City's investment portfolio that can be invested with either the Hume Bank or Bank WAW be increased from 10% to up to 20%. B, publicly exhibit the draft revised investment policy and procedure for a period of 28 days. And C, if no submissions are received, the draft revised investment policy and procedure be adopted and placed on the Public Policy and Procedure Register.
Thank you. Councillor Edwards.
Happy to second the motion, Making.
Thank you. Councillor Thurley, did you wish to open debate?
Yes, just to note that finally they've listened and we are now allowed to invest with regional banks, and we're not tied to the big four as we once were, and we can support our community banks.
Thank you. Question, Councillor Edwards.
Thank you, Making. It's wonderful to see that 53% of our investments are now green. The report identifies that there is an opportunity to increase this to 80% under our current policy settings. So through you to the relevant member of staff, when would council be likely to reach that figure?
Mr. Finlayson.
Through you, Making. Thanks for the question. So our current policy settings allow us to invest up to 80%. The big opportunity we have, even if we didn't make any changes tonight, is the amount that we can currently invest with Suncorp, depending on what their rates are. So this recommendation allows us to increase more with the local banks, bringing that 80% up to 100%. And obviously we'll continue to monitor that, as well as opportunities to invest with the big banks when they have term deposits that do good in terms of green investments.
Thank you. Speaker against, Councillor Glacken.
Thank you. It's really to put forward an amendment which has been dealt with in the report. And my amendment would be, and then if I can get a seconder, my amendment would be to insert between A and B, therefore there would be 4 dot points. And the insert would be amends Albury City's investment policy and procedure by removing the 2.5% rate of return policy preference for green investments, and instead reinvest those funds into environmental programs that benefit the local region. And I have not provided that to the staff.
Do we have anyone wishing to second that at all?
I'm happy to.
Councillor Baker.
Happy to second it, Making, for the purpose of the discussion.
Understood. Thank you. Councillor Glacken.
Thank you, Councillor Baker. I appreciate the opportunity to actually speak about the opportunity that I think we as a community are missing. I, in essence, don't have an issue with us ensuring the greater good for our community by investing in areas and indeed providing funding for initiatives that ensure that we are a sustainable city and environmentally conscious city. And many of people in our community are very supportive of those measures. You've only got to look at the waste facility and the Halve waste program that we have been running for over a decade now, and the significant impact that has had for Albury City, for our bottom line, and for our community and the environment. It's an absolute win for everyone. The reason I am wanting us to change our practice is that I want our community more directly to benefit from the opportunity that we are at the moment giving to other organisations. In essence, we're providing an opportunity by way of funding to banks rather than providing that to our own community. I'm conscious of the fact that the last year it was about a $10,000 difference in investment opportunity or interest opportunity lost. But that $10,000 to our community groups and organisations, sporting clubs, the infrastructure that Albury City has, that $10,000 could be used for so much more within our community. If we were able to gain an extra $10,000 or $20,000 a year, think of the difference that would make to those small grassroots community groups and organisations. Our sporting groups, if they could have that $10,000 or apply for some funding from that $10,000 to make their own facilities or the facilities that they use from Albury City Council, if they could make those more environmentally friendly, that would be, and sustainable, that would be, to me, a much better outcome than providing our money or lending money to the banks who then make that gain themselves. We want to achieve that gain in our community. And that's why I'm adding the addition of the new B in the motion.
Just for clarification, I think all councillors might benefit for that being worded on the screen.
Yeah, happy with that.
So
and it's item
so just
2
bear
from
with us.
110.
Great.
Option 2 from page 110.
Thank you. We're just going to get that up so everyone can follow along a bit more easily. Thank you. Just bear with us.
And I acknowledge I didn't provide that to the staff, so I do apologise for that. Yeah.
I believe that is now up. Happy with that?
That is it. Thank you.
All right. Okay. Speaker against, Councillor Edwards.
Thank you, Mayor King. Council already has a great range of environmental programs that we support. As a council, we need to encourage all financial institutions to move away from fossil fuels. We can only do that by putting our money where our values are and choosing to invest in institutions that don't support fossil fuel. So those who do are incentivized to change their practices. This is in line with our advocacy around climate mitigation as per Albury 2050, the draft sustainability framework that we're now putting out for comment, and our pledges under the city's power partnership. So I don't support this amendment.
Another speaker against, Councillor Thurley.
Question.
Want the question? Oh, Councillor Callaghan, we'll go to your question first, and then Councillor Baker has one as well. Councillor Callaghan.
Thank you. Sorry, I'm unable to see the written amendment, but I realised it was on page 10.
Been able to source that, Page, have you?
Oh, sorry, I just missed it. I was hoping to see it on screen, but I heard Councillor Glacken refer to page 110.
So just to clarify for you, it amends it by removing the 2.5% rate of return policy preference for green investments and instead reinvest these funds into environmental programs that benefit the local region.
Thank you, Mayor King.
You can go to another question and come back to you if that's easier, or you're happy with your question now?
That was it, clarification. Thank you.
Understood. Thank you. Councillor Baker, question.
It's a question to the person who, or Councillor Glacken, who moved the amendment. So, for the sake of this, invest in fossil fuels, but the money saved by not investing in green, used for green locally, even though you're supporting fossil fuels over on this hand. Is that the way it?
Councillor Glacken?
If I can clarify, I'm not saying we need to invest in banks that invest in fossil fuel. What I'm saying is that we should not, we should remove that 2.5% differential that we allow. And we can still invest in environmentally friendly banks if they have a comparable rate. So rather than forego the additional 2.5% by choosing banks that invest in environmentally friendly options instead, and we should go for the best rate available. That best rate then gives us greater interest. That greater interest can then be reinvested within our community in environmental areas. It is documented in the report that we have found another stream of those larger banks that undertake environmental endeavours, and those investments are directed towards those environmental endeavours. So there is movement in the big banks already.
Question was asked. We're now having debate, it seems to me.
So I'm highlighting. Thank you, Councillor Thurley is correct. I'm not saying we need to invest in fossil fuel. Thank you. That was the question.
Thank you. And thank you, Councillor Thurley, for assistance there. Councillor Bowen has a question.
Thank you, Mayor King, and thank you, Councillor Glacken, for your amendment. So a question to the relevant member of staff through you. I want to understand that it's only a move, the reason the 2.5% rate is there is only if we need to use it. Is that correct? Because otherwise we would be getting the best investment possible regardless, correct?
Mr. Finlayson?
Thank you for the question, through you, Mayor King. So when we look at what best rates are available at the time of making an investment, and if there's a bank that doesn't support the fossil fuel industry whose rate is within 2.5% of the best rate available from, say, the big banks, then we'll choose the lesser rate to go with the bank that doesn't support the fossil fuel industry. So it has, I can't do a crystal ball of what's going to happen in the future, but there has been a number of instances where that's meant that we've chosen to invest with a bank that doesn't support the fossil fuel industry rather than taking the highest rate that's available at the time.
And just a follow-up question, thank you, because I know your calculation skills are phenomenal. If I may, just as an example of a 10% interest rate, we're not talking about going back to 7.5%, we're talking about 2.5% of that 10%, is that correct? So what would be the example of how much would be at the different rate at 10%?
Mr. Finlayson?
Thank you for the question. Through you, Mayor King. I do like your analogy of 10%. It simplifies the version of 5% we have in the report. So using 10%, it wouldn't mean that 7.5% is the range that we're talking about. We would take off 2.5% from the 10%. So that would be more like if I'll just double the rate that's there. So it'd be 9.75% as opposed to 7.5%.
Thank you. That answers my question.
Thank you. Another question, Councillor Edwards.
Thank you, Mayor King. Through you to Mr. Finlayson. Can you please remind us of which council policy contains council's adopted position on greenwashing?
Mr. Finlayson, that one for you as well.
Thank you for the question, through you, Mayor King. I'm not sure I know the answer to that question.
Is it the social and sustainability?
It could be.
Something. Yeah.
Procurement policy.
Procurement
perhaps?
policy
Yeah.
contains a number of statements about greenwashing, I guess, and doing one thing over here and something else over there. Yeah, okay.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thanks for the observation. Well, yeah, we can take it on notice.
That'd be
and
great. Thank you.
identify that. Yeah. Thank you, Councillor Edwards. Any other speakers for or against in relation to this amended motion? So we'll put the amended motion. Is that correct? Or to sum up? Sorry.
I will be brief, and thank you very much, Councillor Baker, for allowing me to put this forward. In essence, I want our community to be able to achieve more, get better bang for our buck as a community, and I think we could target some opportunities for environmental initiatives and efficiency initiatives with the money that we would not forego, as we are currently doing, and support our community rather than continue to support any of the banks, but support our grassroots areas. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Glacken. Those for the amended motion? Those against? That amendment is lost. Councillor Thurley, do you wish to speak to your motion?
I think most of it's been said, and I particularly would recommend the words that Councillor Edwards has used. We claim to be a leading community with respect to climate change. We've declared a climate emergency, and we need to lead our community and show them what we're doing. And I would hope that they respect the decision we make to balance our investments with the environmental outcomes we're trying to achieve. And I think the policy and the motion that's there is adequate to do that, and I recommend that councillors support this one.
Thank you, Councillor Thurley. If there's no other speakers for or against, happy to put that motion. Those for? Those against? That motion is carried. Thank you, councillors. Item CM 13.11, the modern slavery statement. Is councillor happy to Councillor Thurley?
Thank you, Mayor King. I move that Council A receives and endorses pursuant to Section 13 of the Modern Slavery Act 2018, Albury City's draft modern slavery statement, and B authorises the CEO to sign the final curated version to be published on Albury City's website, referenced in Albury City's annual report, and provided to the Anti-Slavery Commissioner.
Thank you, Councillor Glacken.
Happy to second that.
Thank you. Councillor Thurley, did you wish to speak to the motion?
Very briefly, the report sets it out quite clearly, and in our procurements, we need to be as certain as we can that all relevant steps, and we are not purchasing materials or taking contracts from people who do not have proper practices. There have been numerous examples shown worldwide from, and I won't mention any country that has been implicated, but this is an important statement of principle.
Thank you, Councillor Thurley. Any other speakers for or against? If not, happy to put that motion. Those for? Those against? That motion is carried. CM 13.12, Albury Gold Cup application for local half-day holiday stakeholder consultation report. Councillor Edwards.
Thank you, Making. I'd like to move an alternative motion.
Just wait for that to come forward.
Thank you. I move that Council A does not support a Albury Gold Cup half-day public holiday for 2024, and B receives a report from staff on the options to support a full-day public holiday for an inclusive local event in 2025.
Do we have a seconder for that motion? Councillor Baker?
Through you, Meeking, yes, for the purposes of the debate, happy to listen to Councillor Edwards on this.
Thank you. Councillor Edwards?
Thank you, Making, and Councillor Baker for seconding. We all love a public holiday, but most public holidays are a whole day and are inclusive for all. Albury Cup is not an inclusive event, and the holiday that we're discussing largely benefits only those who attend. The rest of the community, families and small local businesses have to suffer the disruption for those few. The report states that the Cup draws between 14 and 18,000 attendees across 2 days. Even then, this is not the majority of our community, but the rest of the community is negatively impacted. I would not expect the whole town to be disrupted and inconvenienced the next time I attend a music festival. A parent who finishes work at 12 p.m, maybe in Lavington, could be expected to be in Albury to collect their child from school, also at 12 p.m, and there are no school buses, no after-school care or childcare. For those who do go, they often take a whole day off to get ready anyway. If you've ever had your hair and makeup done, you know what I mean. The survey conducted is problematic and perhaps not clearly worded, with 67% of people supporting Albury City applying for the holiday, but only 53% of people supporting Albury City to continue to support the half-day holiday for the Cup. This is very unclear and not a convincing community consensus. Reading the comments gave me a better picture of the community's thoughts, with 73% of comments being negative, mixed or neutral about the holiday, and only 28% of comments being positive. And most of the positive comments were around economic benefit. I was also struck by stories about the holiday impacting schools, local family court proceedings, and even patients receiving their cancer treatments. This is totally unacceptable. More people thought that the Cup had a significant negative impact on employment and business activity than those that thought it had a significant positive impact. I won't argue, though, around the sentiments that this event has a positive impact for tourism, economic benefits and promotion of our town. But what I will argue is that these would all occur with or without a half-day public holiday and with or without any kind of council support. Particularly that a third of that economic benefit comes from out-of-towners anyway, who don't have the public holiday. And I wonder how the community would feel about $27,000 of in-kind support that council gives the event. And I wonder how else that money could be spent for a similarly positive economic impact. The argument that this is a family event that aligns with council's values and Albury 2050 are laughable. We cannot support events that tick the tourism box, but not others, like mental health of our community. I'd encourage those that think this is a family event to greet the buses coming into town after the Cup. I know at least of one local hospitality business that closes for the night to avoid the antisocial behaviour. Is this the kind of thing council should be supporting with in-kind support and a half-day public holiday? I don't think so. I'm also really disappointed that the consultation on this matter didn't include consideration of a full-day public holiday or alternative events like an Albury Day, Harmony Day, a day for the Albury Show perhaps. With the applications for local holidays due in a matter of weeks, there is now no time to revisit the options for 2024. We should have time to consider a full public holiday or for that holiday to be for an alternative or more inclusive event. This motion would see no public holiday for next year's event. This would allow council to get an accurate picture of the impact that the half-day holiday has on the event and the local benefit, and will inform future decisions of council on this matter. My feelings about horse racing aside, which I haven't spoken about tonight, we don't need a public holiday for a horse race to happen, and those who support it will continue to do so and continue to support our local economy. This event shouldn't be subsidised by local families, businesses and public funds from council. Let's have a holiday, but let's have a whole day and have it for the right reasons. Thanks.
Thank you, councillor Edwards. Speaker against, councillor Thurley.
Yes, I do speak against the motion as it stands, but I would foreshadow that if this fails, I would change A to does support, but also leave B. I think B is a very important part of this motion. But I would speak against this motion and have the half-day public holiday this year, but go forward with B and receive a full report on the options about a full-day public holiday.
Speak against the original motion, councillor Gluckin.
Thank you. And I was also going to foreshadow an alternative motion, and that was to go back to the original motion. I think it's pretty largely similar to councillor Thurley's, but mine was to go back to the original motion in the recommendation, or the recommendation in the report, and add a B that council receive a report from staff on the options to support a full day public holiday into the future.
Thank you. Quick question while I work out the bouncing ball here. Councillor Baker, sorry.
I'm slightly confused. The full day public holiday on this one from councillor Edwards is just any day not related to the horse race, correct? Yep. And are you talking about?
Mine is to go back to the original recommendation.
Yep.
In the report, and then to add a B to receive a report from staff on future opportunities for a full day public holiday in relation to the horse race, to the Albury Gold Cup, not an erroneous day, but related to the Gold Cup.
All right. In relation to councillor Edwards' motion before us, we might close debate on that before we vote. Councillor Edwards? Happy to put the motion for councillor Edwards' motion as it appears. Councillors, those for? Those against? That motion is lost. Councillor Thurley had the first foreshadowed motion. Happy to hear yours.
Mine is simply that we have the original motion plus add point B that councillor Edwards had put up.
And did you wish to speak to that as we
No, I think the arguments have been put. I'd like to see this report that would come on the future opportunity for a full day public holiday for the Albury Gold Cup.
One moment, I'll just seek clarification from Mr. CEO.
Okay, sorry, just to confirm, councillor Edwards' motion that was lost didn't refer to the Albury Gold Cup in Part B, but councillor Thurley is now. Okay.
Thank you. All right, do we have a seconder for this motion? Okay, speakers for councillor Baker.
Thank you, Mayor King. I'm supporting both A, to support the half-day public holiday for the Gold Cup for the next 2 years, and B, receive a report on the options for the future opportunity for a full-day public holiday for the Albury Gold Cup. However, I'm not in favour of Part B, even though I'm happy to have it there. I think it is onerous enough on businesses to have half a day. We're used to it now. It's been here 20 years. I voted against it at the start, and it didn't matter what we voted on council because it was overturned by the state government of the day. Could happen again. It doesn't really matter what we say. If it's gazetted at a state level, it comes into being. And I think they just do us the courtesy of asking us every 2 years. But I'll support that. The horse race would be nowhere near as successful if we didn't have a half-day holiday. And no matter what your views on horse racing, it is a good thing for our city to have that sort of focus on us. And yeah, a lot of people do enjoy it. Thank you.
Thank you. Noting we have another speaker for, but a question first, Councillor Bowen.
Thank you, Mayor King. Probably more a comment than a question, if I may, but just you know, I have two hats to wear. Business side of me says, I think we've got lots of public holidays. The events side of me says, yeah, this is a great thing for the region. So, you know, I've been weighing up those options quite a bit, but in my mind, I think there's an X factor that comes into the play here where COVID's happened. The event got washed out in 2019. COVID happened, which decimated events right throughout the world, and myself included in that respect. So based on the numbers going forward from the last year or so, which is 9,000 of that, to me, if that was the case over the past several years, then to me, I would feel that maybe the half-day public holiday was not in order. But I feel that we owe it in that respect to allow that event to build up again, to give it an opportunity to get back to those numbers of 15 and 18,000, hopefully over the next 2 years. So I'll be voting for the motion on the board.
Thank you. Another question, Councillor Callaghan.
Thank you, Mayor King, and through to the most relevant staff member. The Albury Gold Cup, Albury City Council spends roughly in the vicinity of $27,000 in-kind support. What other events do we provide that level of in-kind support? It just seems a lot.
Mr. Glass.
Thank you for the question, Councillor Kelleher, and through you, Mayor King. Events that we run would include Gardenesque and Riverside Vibes, and the amount of money that is that provided for those events would exceed or meet that level of funding. Mind you, they have been subject. The Riverside Vibes was subject to a state government grant last time.
Sorry, Mr. Glass, not Albury City run events, other events that we support that aren't Albury City. So the Gold Cup isn't an Albury City event. My question is in regards to, are there any other events that we support in kind to this scale financially?
Thank you for the question, and through you, Mayor King, major sporting events would be of a similar sort of scale of investment from Albury City. And also major carnivals, Country Cup basketball comes to mind, where we have a sponsorship agreement with the organisers of the Country Cup.
Thank you. Well, can I have a follow-up question?
Of course.
Is there an opportunity to revisit our financial investment in this space?
Mr. Glass.
Thank you. Thank you for the question, Councillor Kelleher, and absolutely is an opportunity for us to revisit. There's been no commitment made for the financial commitments going forward at this stage.
Thank you, Councillor.
Follow-up.
Another question? Yeah.
And can you tell me the process of how we would be addressing that as council, please, Mr. Glass?
Mr. Glass.
Thank you for the question. Council would normally receive an application from the applicant in relation to seeking in-kind or sponsorship arrangements. Internal panel would assess the application primarily through the events and tourism team and other members of the business and lifestyle cluster, but also extend, in this case, to other clusters that are impacted. And then a report is presented to executive for consideration.
Thank you.
Sorry. Oh, sorry. Is it possible for councillors to have input into how that money is spent? Or we don't?
Mr. CEO?
Yes, happy to share that information with you. based on the discussion this evening.
Thank you. Thank you, Frank.
Thank you. Speaker 4, Councillor Glacken.
Thank you very much. And Councillor Thurley, thank you very much for moving this alternative recommendation this evening. The Albury Gold Cup has grown significantly. There has been that hiatus of the COVID situation, and there have been a couple of weather events as well. But the clear factor was that when the half-day public holiday was declared, it enabled the Cup to grow and develop. It ticks lots of boxes. It creates a vibrancy in our community. It supports local tourism. The event supports our community being able to participate in it, but it's also people coming from outside, 30% or so. There's economic benefit, which is direct economic benefit, indirect economic development, and it allows and facilitates business growth and development on the back of some of the things that and interactions that happen at the Gold Cup. So it's one of those events that we've been saying as a community, the community have been telling us, and it's in our 2050 document, that the community want a vibrant place to live, work and play. It's something that we've been advertising our city as a place where you can live, work and play. It's one of those components. Not everyone wants to go fishing in the greatest river in Australia, the Murray River, but some of them do. Some of them come and locate here because they had a fabulous fishing experience. Other people might come and locate here because we have such as the Albury Gold Cup, which is a couple of day festival, social event on our calendar. It's one of the biggest events on our calendar here in Albury. Our community and our business in the community consultation that has taken place, and a lot of people participated in that, both the community and the business community, so our wider community and the business community, were both supportive. They did, some of the feedback did say that it would probably be better if it were a full day, and that's why the opportunity to review a full day is great. Thank you very much, Councillor Edwards, for that suggestion. I think that whilst there are some disruptions to our community, and I acknowledge there are disruptions, but there are many benefits to our community as well. And I'm very conscious of the fact that, as raised by Councillor Edwards, treatments were interrupted, have been interrupted due to public holidays. The Victorian Grand Final public holiday interrupted many treatments, including cancer treatments to people at our regional cancer centre. Not all of the treatments were interrupted, only some of them. And that was a Victorian public holiday that interrupted those treatments for some of those patients. And I don't think many local people go down to Melbourne for the Grand Final. Some would, but not many, but they have a public holiday for that. So I think it is a good option to look at a full day public holiday. But we need a realistic view of that to see what would really happen, how that might transpire. So I'm pleased that Councillor Thurley has said that we would look at that as a future opportunity, but deals with the next 2 years as a half-day public holiday. And I support this. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Glacken. Councillor Edwards, question?
Thank you, Mayor King. Through you to the relevant member of staff. How would you describe those other events that receive in-kind support from council? Are they not-for-profit events? Mr. Glass?
Thank you for the question, Councillor Edwards. All events vary. I mentioned the Basketball Country Cup event earlier, and it's all around development of young basketballers from across Australia and New Zealand, and it also has a social element to it. Major sporting events, similar, I guess, to Gold Cup, are an opportunity for networking and social.
Are they not-for-profit events?
Generally, no, not for.
And
generally,
how would you describe the Albury Cup? Is that a not-for-profit event?
No.
Last question. Do those other events mentioned involve gambling?
In major, there's very few professional sports events that don't involve gambling now, as far as I
On
can see.
site, for example,
Not on
for the Young Basketball Country Cup.
No, absolutely.
Okay, thank you.
There's no more speakers for or against. Councillor Thurley, do you wish to put the motion? We'll put the motion, councillors. Those for? Those against? That motion is carried. Thank you, councillors. Which brings us to CM 13.13, Community and Cultural Grants, Round 1. Councillor Thurley.
Thank you, Mayor King. The number 13 popped up twice, so I'm doubly unlucky here. That Council A receives and notes the report, and B endorses the recommended 2023-24 Community and Cultural Grants Program, Round 1 allocations as follows. 1, Bhutanese Australian Community Support Group, $3,000. 2, New South Wales Service for the Treatment and Rehabilitation of Torture and Trauma Survivors, starts, $3,000. 3, Step Out Albury Wodonga, $3,000. 4, Westside Community Centre, $3,000. 5, Woomera Aboriginal Corporation, $3,000. 6, Zonda Club of Albury Wodonga, $2,000 partially funded. 7, Hands for Filipinos, $1,700 partially funded with conditions. 8, Albury Chess Club, $1,750 partially funded with conditions. 9, Filipino Australian Community of Albury Wodonga Inc., $1,500 partially funded with conditions. Hockey Albury Wodonga Inc., $3,000 partially funded with conditions, total $24,950.
Thank you, Councillor Thurley. Didn't miss a beat. Councillor Glacken.
Very happy to support Councillor Thurley's motion. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Thurley, did you wish to speak to it?
No, the attachment set out what it was about. We actually had, I think, 20-something applications. I remember sitting at my desk for many hours going through them, and then we spent a few hours in the room next door looking at these applications. Great applications, and very valuable for our community. I mean, Step Out Albury Wodonga, for example, and the New South Wales Service for the Treatment and Rehabilitation of Torture and Trauma is incredibly important. I think it's a great benefit to the community, and we always get well oversubscribed.
Thank you, Councillor Thurley. Any speakers for or against? If not, happy to put that motion. Those for? Those against? That motion is carried. Thank you. CM 14, Officers' Reports for Noting. CM 14.1, Investment Balances, September 2023. Councillor Thurley.
Mayor King, I move that Council receives and notes the investment balances report for the month of September 2023.
Thank you. Councillor Bowen.
Thank you. I'd like to second that motion.
Thank you. Anything to add? Happy to put the motion if there are no comments or questions, councillors. We'll put the motion. Those for? Those against? That motion is carried. CM 14.2, 16 Regional Cities Bus Services Improvements Program for Albury. Councillor Glacken.
Thank you. Through you to move the recommendation as a motion that Council receives and notes the update of the 16 Regional Cities Bus Services Improvement Program.
Thank you. Councillor Edwards.
Happy to second the motion making.
Thank you. Councillor Glacken, did you wish to speak to it?
Yes, thank you, Mayor King. I would like to highlight the opportunity that we've been enabled with, really facilitated by the state government. And clearly our staff have had to work with the state government to ensure the enhanced bus program. It's good to see that it's been well received by the community. And I thank the staff for providing us with this report. And I would like to think that in, say, another 9 or so months, we might be able to get a further update to see how well it has cemented in. There was clearly a big increase in people using the buses initially. They need to be reliable. They need to be something that's in the back of people's minds. They have to be conscious of the fact that they can actually go and catch a bus. And I'm keen to see how it plays out in another 9 months, which would really be 18 months since the initial introduction of the services. But also partly to confirm that we do have the best routes, we do have the best timetables, etc. That there can be no further that there are no possible further enhancements at the time for us to create greater connectivity for our people. If we want people to use the buses, we've got to make them usable, and that's the routes and the timing, the facilities and the services. And a lot of really good work has happened to date, and I just want to make sure we maximise that opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Glaskin. Speaker 4, Councillor Edwards.
Thank you, Mayor King. Building on Councillor Glaskin's comments, it's wonderful to see the uptake of the improved network, up to 20% increase on some routes, and great support for the new services. This is an excellent outcome for sustainability and proof that if we have better public transport in this city, people will use it. So I look forward to further improvements to our public and active transport as per the draft transport strategy, particularly the CBD bike loop. I did have a question though, that's okay, to the relevant member of staff.
Yeah, absolutely.
Could we get an update on the bus shelters, particularly those new bus stops that didn't have any shelter, please?
Mr. Lawson?
Yeah, thank you for the question through you, Mayor King. Yeah, so under the Country Passenger funding agreement, we have a number, I think it's 7 bus stops that are being currently upgraded now, and we've received funding for further bus stops under the additional funding that's been released from the state government, and we're currently in planning to introduce those as well.
Thank you.
We do have a speaker, Councillor Callaghan, or a question. Over to you, Councillor Callaghan, first, before we go to a few others.
Thank you, Mayor King, and to the most relevant staff members to follow on from Councillor Edwards' question in regards to the bus stop. How are we going with decommissioning the old signage and bus stops? It's been up since January now. It's becoming a bit confusing for community.
Mr. Lawson?
Yeah, again, thank you for the question through you, Mayor King. We've been in discussions with Transport for New South Wales and looking to them to provide us with a decommissioning plan. So they've been busy in other areas introducing a similar improvement service to other areas. They've recently completed that work and now focusing on that decommissioning plan. So we're hoping over the next couple of months we'll be able to remove those now bus stops and signs that aren't utilised.
Thank you. Follow up, Councillor Callaghan.
Thank you, Mayor King. In January, whilst I welcomed the new services, I was highly opposed to the positioning of the bus shelter out the front of Musette at the Albury train station on the basis that it was on a slope and not highly accessible for all our community, considering there was such scope and space for buses to go into another space. The State of New South Wales Transport continuing to push on with the bus stop out the front of Musette. It's been out the front of Officeworks what are we in for the past 10 months. Is there consideration about the bus stop going on a flat ground that is accessible for all people?
Mr. Lawson?
Yeah, thank you for the question through you, Mayor King. Based on the original proposal, which was to have the bus stop in front of Cafe Musette, Transport for New South Wales have been undertaking designs to ensure that it is accessible and appropriate in that location. They're currently closing out that design and looking to put their proposal to New South Wales Trains in the very near future so that those bus stops can be relocated.
Thank you. Councillor Callaghan?
So the bus stop will be going out in the front of Musette at this point, Mr. Lawson?
Yes,
Mr Lawson, just for clarification.
through you, Mayor King. Yeah, yes, that is the proposal still.
Okay, so in January, when that was a proposal, it was determined that upon it going at the Albury train station at the front of Musette, that it would be reviewed after 6 months. So when the installation does go ahead, that will still have a 6-month review by the community.
Mr Lawson.
Through you, Mayor King, thanks for the question. Should council wish that review to take place following the installation of that bus stop, quite happy to do that.
Well, it was agreed upon that we would review it when it went in, and we just didn't realise it would take 10 months for this to happen. So yes, we agreed back in January that it would be reviewed once it was installed. So that would be great, Mr Lawson. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Bowen.
Thank you, Mayor King, through you to the most relevant member of staff. To increase take up of buses as well too, is it possible that Albury City could have an app, if not already? I understand that things are on websites, but do we have an app so we actually find out the bus is 30 seconds away, 20 seconds away, 1 minute away? Is there a possibility that we could to look at that scope to increase reliability and understand where the buses are?
Mr Lawson.
Yeah, thank you for the question through you, Mayor King. That's certainly something we can work with the bus providers and Transport for New South Wales with, should you wish us to do that.
Transport for New South Wales have that capability, as I understand it. So it's really making the community more aware of that, and having discussions today with our library and visitor centre about having hard copy access to bus timetables as a further way of raising awareness and the like. But the technology is certainly there, and Transport for New South Wales, as I understand it, have or were to introduce that as part of the rollout of these services.
So that would be just adaptable to Albury City as well? So you'd be able to focus just on Albury City, or, yeah.
Routes that are on their app, yeah. Not, yep. And we can certainly follow that through. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other speakers for or against? Councillor Glucken to close debate? Happy to put the motion then. Councillors, those for? Those against? That motion is carried. CM15, delegates reports for noting. CM15.1, Murray-Darling Association Conference. Councillor David Thurley. Councillor Thurley.
Move that council receives and notes the delegates report on the Murray-Darling Association National Conference held on the 26th, 28th September 2023.
Thank you. Councillor Glucken.
Thank you. And I would like to have a follow-up motion after this one, please, which is related to this. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Thurley, do you wish to speak to your
Very
report?
briefly, I don't want to spend too much time. The report's available. I do want to note that clearly Minister Plibersek has introduced the Water Amendment Act to the Federal Parliament because it was quite clear that the Murray-Darling Basin Plan would not be delivered by 2024. And she's extended some elements of the plan to 2026 and others to 2027. It seems to me that one of the biggest problems is that New South Wales, despite having to submit 21 water resource plans by 2019, I think has only 7 accredited to this date, and we're still waiting for the rest of them to be accredited. And the other big issue, which we will be well aware of here, is constraints, so that the plan is unable to deliver environmental water because of constraints, with private landholders not giving consent to allow this water to move across their land. Deep Eye here in Albury is working on that, and it's called Reconnecting Country Rivers, and I was invited to be on that panel, and they are coming up with a number of initiatives to try to overcome these constraints. But these don't just apply to the Murray between here and Yarrawonga, they apply to the Murrumbidgee, the Murray, and they are critical issues if we're going to get water to the environmental sites where it's needed. The conference was good, and in fact, Minister Plibersek put aside an extra hour after her speech to meet with the members of the board of the Murray-Darling Association, as did the opposition spokesperson on water the next day. So all in all, it was a good conference. A study tour of the Coorong and Lower Lakes was a very informative one, even though I didn't make it. But a great conference and well attended.
Thank you, Councillor Thurley. Any other speakers for or against? Otherwise, we will put the motion. Those for? Those against? That motion is carried. Councillor Glacken wanted to move a motion. Thank you.
Through you, subsequent to that report from Councillor Thurley, I would like to move that Council endorses Councillor Thurley's nomination for National Chair of the Murray-Darling Association Incorporated. If I can get a seconder, I will gladly. Thank you. Yep.
Thank you. Councillor Baker, happy to second that one.
Yes, thanks,
Thank
Vicky.
you. Councillor Glacken.
Thank you very much. It's my understanding that the nominations are open for the chair for this position or for this association, and the nomination needs council support for that nomination. And so I propose that I would be happy to support that and ask other councillors if they are so happy as well to support that, and ask Councillor Thurley if he's happy to accept our nomination.
Thank you. Councillor Thurley.
Yes, I am happy to accept the nomination. And on a personal note, I discovered, in fact, that I am now the longest serving national president of the Murray-Darling Association, and my predecessor was Councillor Dudley Padman. So Albury has a long and proud history of chairing this association.
Thank you, Councillor Thurley. Any other speakers for or against? Happy to put the motion. Those for? Those against? That motion is carried with unanimous support, no doubt, from us all, recognising the valuable contribution you have made in that area. CM16, notice of urgent business. Councillor Baker.
Thank you, Mayor King. I'm aware of the time constraints, but just wanted to say on referendum Saturday, I was fortunate enough to go to the Meals on Wheels 60th birthday celebrations, and it was fantastic and amazing to see how many people and service organisations support those Meals on Wheels and what an important part of society it is. It was also a stunning morning tea, but I left before they started eating that. It was really good. They were appreciative. We gave out awards, probably 30 awards to very deserving members of the community. Only issue is they're an ageing group of volunteers, and that's a worry. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Baker, and thank you for representing us all there for that important milestone. Any other items of general business, urgent business rather? In that case, I declare the meeting closed at 8:16 p.m. Thank you, councillors. Thank you, Councillor Callaghan and Councillor Cameron online.
Good night. Thank you.
Thank you. Good night.
Thank you.